Super Bowl. But first, another day, another playoff team facing serious QB questions.
Yeah, Kevin, serious might be an understatement for Saints fans. A developing story we're following this hour on SportsCenter. Sean Payton saying earlier Wednesday that he definitely wants New Orleans to re-sign free agent quarterback Jameis Winston. This as the team waits for a decision within the next couple of weeks from Drew Brees on whether he returns for another season or retires. Winston saw just 54 snaps of action in 5 games, including the playoffs, last season.
Jameis Winston, we know we had a year with him. He was fantastic as a leader. He's got tremendous arm talent. He's a young prospect that we like a lot. We feel like we've got a clean direction as to what we want to do, and I'm glad we had Jameis, and I'm talking about Jameis because he's the one that's a free agent. Obviously, Taysom's here, signed in the building.
All right, NFL insider Dan Graziano joins us now with more. All right, Dan, if Brees does in fact retire, as most insiders expect him to do, how comfortable would the Saints be entering next season with Winston as their starter?
I think they would be comfortable, Michael. I don't think that Sean Payton is just sort of blowing smoke there. They've had Winston in the building for a year. My understanding, talking to people behind the scenes, is that both parties were very happy with the arrangement and how it went this year. You have a guy who spent the entire year in learning your offense, right? As opposed to bringing in somebody else who would have to learn it. And I think with Jameis Winston, you see a quarterback that the Saints probably feel like they can get for, I don't want to say a bargain price, but for a guy that couldn't get more than a minimum salary deal last year and didn't play this year, they probably have a chance to bring him back on a contract that is reasonable to them. And that matters because the Saints are in cap trouble, the likes of which no other team in the league is. They'll even have a $23 million cap hit for Brees if he retires. So they're going to need to get some kind of deal. They are comfortable with Jameis Winston.
Yeah, and Winston threw just 12 passes last season, and his only touchdown came via that 56-yard trick play in the Saints' playoff loss to the Bucs. Dan, with all the insight, appreciate it. Well, coming up on PTI's bonus topic, Tony and Mike assess which accomplishment would be more impressive with the win on Sunday. Mahomes' second Super Bowl victory by the age of 25 or Brady's 2 rings after the age of 40.
Mike, another big quarterback decision will take place in Philly. Doug Pederson is gone. Nick Sirianni taking over. The first-time head coach is dealing with a turning point in the franchise as Jalen Hurts finished the season as the starter while Carson Wentz was benched the final 4 games. Adam Schefter on ESPN 97.5, The Fanatic in Philly, this morning on Wentz's future.
He wants to leave the franchise. That's why the trade still is in play. This is all real, and this is made up, right? And just because he would like to be moved doesn't mean he will be. If I had to guess, I would guess he is traded. That'd be my guess, okay, at some point this offseason. But again, they're not just going to trade him. They're not looking to get rid of him. They're not. I'm guessing it would be a minimum of a first-round draft pick. A minimum. And, of course, they're going to want more. They might be asking or want 2 first-round picks, for all I know. I want to be very clear. I don't know what but I would say they'd want a minimum of a first-round draft pick.
Sal Paolantonio joining us live from Tampa as he covers Super Bowl 55, but he also is locked in all things Philly. And Sal, the backdrop to all this is Wentz's 4-year, $128 million extension that kicks in this upcoming season. So take us through the steps for the Eagles and Wentz to figure this all out.
You know, and that's an onerous contract, just like Jared Goff would make a capologist blush. So let's figure this out. Behind door number 1 is Carson Wentz does an about face and wants to come back. Well, several things have to happen. He has to say publicly that he wants to be a Philadelphia Eagle. He has to do a repair job not only with his own locker room, but with the fan base. I'm around Philly all the time. People are ready to move on from Carson Wentz. Now, behind door number 2, trade Carson Wentz. And I think Adam Schefter is absolutely correct. The Eagles would expect a first-round pick for Carson Wentz. You know what I say to that? Good luck, right? Mm-hmm. The Colts have Frank Reich and Press Taylor. They were on the phone with the Lions trying to get Matthew Stafford, not trying to get Carson Wentz. And they did not offer the Lions their first-round pick for Matthew Stafford. So that is the situation that the Eagles find themselves in, Kevin. This off-season coaching quarterback carousel, like nothing we have ever seen before, and Carson Wentz wants to jump on, that's for sure.
And you mentioned Press Taylor, of course. He worked closely with Carson Wentz over the last couple of years, and Frank Reich was part of that QB room as they went to the Super Bowl. Sal Powell on Carson Wentz's future in Philly.
But Kevin, another team in the NFC East dealing with its own quarterback question for 2021. Alex Smith played the most games of the four guys who saw action at QB for Washington last season, but there's a chance he could retire. Former first-round pick Dwayne Haskins got cut in Week 17, clearing the way for Taylor Heineke to start that playoff game. So, Mark Schwartz, what they going to do now?
They have an emerging young defense that is the envy of the NFL.
Ball is out, picked up by Chase Young. Touchdown, Chase Young!
Now the focus in Washington is identifying a future quarterback.
We've got to make sure we find the right one. That's the key. Would I like to find him? Absolutely. Are we in a hurry? No. We want to make sure we do this right and we get it right.
36-year-old Alex Smith may be the feel-good story of the decade and the favorite for NFL Comeback Player of the Year. But when the media met Washington's new GM and new vice president of football operations, the most urgent question was, who's next?
As important as that quarterback position is, you have to have people around him. You have to have an offensive line to protect him. You have to have skilled players.
The Rams went all in to acquire 33-year-old Matthew Stafford from Detroit. Would Washington offer a similar package to Houston for 25-year-old Deshaun Watson?
The more you talk about compensation or who you would give or what you would do, the less people want to do business with you.
What is the balance in terms of giving up multiple first-round picks for a roster that still has some holes in order to secure a quarterback that can lead you for the next 10 years?
Well, that's the struggle. That's what you really, truly worry about. If you do have your franchise quarterback, can you protect him, and do you have enough playmakers around him?
New Executive Vice President Marty Herney explained, Washington wants to be aggressive without mortgaging its future. I'm Mark Schwartz, ESPN.
For more perspective, we bring in Ryan Clark. All right, RC, what's the best move for Washington to make right now as it relates to that quarterback position this offseason?
Say, bro, if you could get Deshaun Watson, you get him. You try to do everything you can without mortgaging your future or without being irresponsible to attain Deshaun Watson. Because, shoot, we saw it in Houston, bro. He don't need people to block anyway. Deshaun Watson is that good. And so if you can get your franchise quarterback, a guy that can be the stalwart or the linchpin of your organization for the next decade, you get out and do it. And now, if you can't do that, I don't think you go with one of these lower level guys. It's not like, let's give up a first rounder for Sam Darnold. Let's give up a first rounder for Carson Wentz. To me, then you look to the draft and you look where your draft slot is and you look at some of these younger quarterbacks, these rookie quarterbacks coming out of college and say, okay, maybe we can have a bridge quarterback for the next 1 or 2 years, and then that guy becomes our starter.
Well, here's a little perspective. Washington's 4 quarterbacks last season combined for 16 touchdowns and 16 interceptions in 2020. RC, appreciate it, bro.
So you're saying that's not good?
It's not, no.
So that's not good,
no.
though? Oh, okay.
Still to come on SportsCenter, PTI's bonus topic. Tony and Mike assess which accomplishment would be more impressive with a win on Sunday. Patrick Mahomes' second Super Bowl victory by the age of 25 or Tom Brady's 2 rings after the age of 40. Also, new tonight, inside the close call that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs avoided that could have created a COVID crisis during Super Bowl week. And assessing the next big 3 boom or bust expectations, including Stephen A. Smith's take on how far KD, Harden, and Kyrie can carry Brooklyn this season. SportsCenter continues next.